Good morning, everybody. Welcome to your Rangers Review morning briefing. It is Tuesday, the 12th of August. It is game day, of course. A big match tonight over in the Czech Republic. Rangers hoping to advance to the Champions League playoff round. A 3-0 lead over Victoria Plzen, so very much in command, but the tie not over yet, that's for sure. We'll discuss what we think the team might be tonight in that game. Transfer news, Rangers loan deal that was announced yesterday, and Russell Martin and Jack Butland's press conference yesterday. So loads to get through. Chris Jack joins me to discuss all things Rangers. How goes it, Chris?
Not too bad, Derek. The first time we've spoken since last Friday evening. How was it for you?
Yes, it was sensational. Yeah, myself and Chris were at the Oasis concert at Murrayfield, folks, and yeah, it was magnificent. I've got to say, the whole day was superb. Was out pretty early on. Aunt and uncle live over Corstorphine Way, so we're out one of the pubs over there, the Torfin, so a shout out to them, and then made our way into Haymarket for a bit. Came back, a few beers at my aunt and uncle's, and then meandered over to Murrayfield, and it was sensational. It really was. You have a good time yourself, Chris?
I think sensational is the only word for it. Four of us went through, had a bit of lunch at a nice wee Italian just down the road from Murrayfield. A couple of beers in a pub. I actually bumped into a couple of BBC boys in there. Got myself out to Murrayfield, and the first person that I see walk in as a Rangers Review watcher and viewer and subscriber. So it seems everywhere you go these days, there's always someone that tunes into the show or that reads the website. So I had a wee bit of Rangers chat with him, and actually bumped into a couple of other Rangers fans as well. So always nice to get out and about and see people that are big fans of the show, and their comments and feedback much appreciated. But I think the Oasis were certainly the highlight of the night. A sensational night, as you say. Yeah. A bit of a come down, and Ibrox on Saturday didn't quite have the same vibe about it, put it that way. But here we are.
Yeah, certainly a hangover. I had to drive down to Bolton the next day early on, so not ideal. But they're playing tonight. I think it's the last gig in Murrayfield tonight. So if you are heading along, folks, you will have fun, trust me. Right, people are tuning in. It's not the Oasis review, it's the Rangers review, of course, and plenty to discuss, Chris. I think before we'll look at tonight's game, transfer news, because as you reported on the website yesterday, Rangers closing in on a deal for the young Real Betis centre-back, Nobel Mendy. It looks like he will be coming in, 20 years of age, and many hoping that he's comfortable with the ball at his feet on that left-hand side. But what can you tell us with regards to that one?
This one is very close and should be signed and sealed and scarves above the head and all the usual bits within the next couple of days. It was one that we had on the site last Friday. I think it might have been last Thursday evening. Myself and Josh had a transfer roundup of the state of play where Rangers are, incomings and outgoings, and we mentioned in that piece that Mendy was a player of interest for Rangers. That has progressed over the course of the weekend, and we had it on the site yesterday morning. Some of the finer details on this deal. So around about €2.5 million, £2 million or so, to get that player in. He'll sign a 4-year contract, an option of a fifth. So like Oliver Antman, who signed a similar deal, it's a real sign of intent that Rangers are building for not just this season, which is also the most important one, but they are trying to build a squad for the coming seasons. He's a guy who's not got a lot of first team experience under his belt, you have to say. That comes as a bit of a negative. You think of the other centre halves that were linked, Connor Cody being the main one. It's a very, very different profile to Connor Cody, Mendy coming in, but a player that Rangers like. They have been watching him for some time, and I say all going to plan, which we think it will do. He will be a Rangers player within the next couple of days.
Yep, I can't say I knew of him before the link surfaced, and let's hope that he looks strapping anyway. He looks like he can handle himself. He's a young guy also, but for me, Rangers are lacking a bit of experience. I just hope that he can transition into that back line relatively easily and quickly, because it's a concern of mine, that defence, I've got to say. Staying with the defence, Chris, and reports from Brazil suggest that Jefte is subject to interest. The club Palmeiras, who are a big club over there in Brazil, and they're said to be keen on signing him. Is there anything in that at this moment in time? Of course, he's just sort of forced his way back into the starting 11 in the last couple of games. Is he a departure you can expect this window?
When I checked this one out yesterday morning, there was nothing doing at that stage, and Rangers had not had any official approach from Palmeiras at that stage. But that was almost 24 hours or so ago now. And as we know, as we always say on this show, things can change very, very quickly. So I will get back on the case once we've done the show and see if there's been any update. It all seems to be coming from the Brazilian end. This one, there's been nothing else from this end. And as I say, as of yesterday morning, there was nothing to report from a Rangers perspective. But I will get back on the case. I think the reaction that I've seen to this one over the last couple of days, Saturday night, I think it first came out in Brazil. I've not seen a lot of Rangers fans saying, "No, definitely don't sell. No, he's a guy that we want to build the team around." I think on the numbers that have been suggested, 6 to 8 million euros seems to be the fees that I could do in the rounds in South America. That represents a really tidy profit on Jefte. I think we've seen first few weeks of the season, he's not Russell Martin's first choice at left back. I think we will see another left back come in, but I'd be happy to have Jefte in the squad. I think there's enough potential in him to make him worthwhile holding on to. If he can get someone to come in that's more experienced, that takes a bit of the burden off him at left back. I don't think he's someone that you should be throwing out the door, but you might find that an offer just comes in and it's just too good to turn down. So interested to see how Rangers play this one over the next couple of weeks. Of course, if there's anything in these reports, we always have to give the usual disclaimer on that. So as of yesterday morning, there was nothing doing from a Rangers perspective. But if that changes and if anything unfolds on that one, we'll certainly do our best to bring it to you.
I think there's potential there with Jefte. When I was on with Johnny a few weeks ago now, he got a few pelters because he says he's potentially a £15 million defender if he can be coached well and iron out some of his deficiencies. And I could see where he was going with that. Of course, there was interest in January from down south. I think there is potential there. 21, whether Russell Martin is able to unlock that, who knows? But I wouldn't be surprised if he departs. Ridvan is another one, of course. It's sort of gone a bit quiet on that. There's a few comments coming in, Chris, on Ridvan. Vote your ball bag says, are we any further forward with Davis and Ridvan leaving?
No is the short answer on Ben Davies, as far as we understand it. There's been very, very little regarding Ben Davies over the course of the summer, which, as we've spoken about, as we've written about, is a problem because there's a lot of money going out the door on players who are nowhere near this first team squad and who will never be anywhere closer to this first team squad. Ben Davies obviously been one of them. Ridvan, as the comment says there, Ridvan is another. Again, as we reported on the site a couple of times last week, Besiktas are very much in the driving seat for him. We believe there is a bit of other interest, and other clubs are having a look at the situation. But Besiktas looks like the most likely destination for him, and it just depends on where they want to pay, what Rangers are looking for. I think he still has. It doesn't have much value to Rangers right now. I think he still has value in the squad, still of good profile, good experience, good age, potential improvement in him. So again, like Jefte, I don't think Rangers should be kicking him down the marble staircase and throwing him out the front door just for nothing. He's got a value. Rangers are quite right to stick to that value until someone matches it. So I think he will leave. I'd be surprised if Ridvan is still a Rangers player by the end of this transfer window. Other ones like Ben Davies, like Cifuentes. I've seen there's reports about him this morning. Again, I'll try and get to the bottom of them. Rabbi Matondo, probably the most high profile and expensive one out of all of them. The clock is ticking a wee bit now for Rangers. I think we spoke about a fortnight or so ago. I wrote a big piece on the site about the importance of getting these guys out the door. We're now a couple of weeks on, and there's very, very little chat about them. There's not much interest in them at all, and it's a problem that Rangers have to try and solve, because I say the days are ticking away, and they don't want to be stuck with these guys coming into the window.
Yeah, they need a left back, whether Jefte stays or not. They need to go out and bring someone in. I think that is clear to anyone. Ben Davies is an interesting, just on that left-hand side, I thought he could be a player that Russell Martin would see and go, yeah, I can use him, given that he's pretty good with the ball and he provides balance on the left, but he's not had a look in as yet. Right, moving on from that, other bit of interesting news yesterday, Chris, is Rangers' loan cooperation deal with 3 clubs in the lower leagues, namely Raith Rovers, Alloa and Stirling Albion. So it means there's a new SFA rule, which means teams can strike deals with a team in every other division. So Rangers have done just that, and it will allow up to 5 players to be sent on loan to each of the lower league sides. And are still able to play for the Rangers youth teams to maximise game times. And players must be eligible to play for Scotland in the age between 16 and 21. So I think this is a good tie-up with these clubs, given the new rule change, Chris, and it will provide these youngsters with much-needed game time, given the disbandment of the B team as a concept. So, yeah, I'm all for this.
A shout out to Josh for his work on this one. I know he's been working on this for a couple of weeks to firm this one up, and finally managed to get the go ahead to put it out yesterday. So his hard work paid off on that. I think it makes a lot of sense. This, for Rangers, people will perhaps question the teams. I think some of the Rangers fans with slightly longer memories won't be huge fans of Raith Rovers and Alloa Athletic. That's safe to say. Won't have fond memories of Stirling Albion for very different reasons, and a particular game back in the day when they had no manager either. So all 3 of those teams provoke very different reactions for Rangers fans. But if they're going to give players the best platform, then it makes sense. Rangers have to find a way of bridging that gap. Again, a topic and a subject that we've spoken a lot about, we've written a lot about, we've covered extensively on the site and on the show over recent seasons, and we've discussed it that much because it's a problem that just does not go away. Rangers have still not found a way to allow their highly talented players that are good at 14, 15, 16, 17. How do they get them into the squad? How do they then get them into the first team? How do you go from being a B team player to a potential Champions League player? Nobody's saying it's easy. No one's saying that there's one surefire way of doing it. But I think this is certainly a way that it gives Rangers a better chance of doing that. Really interested to see how it works, what game time these guys get. Also, three different levels. So it gives Rangers the option of someone who is perhaps further on in their development, like Josh Gentles, for example, someone the manager spoke a lot about in pre-season, was really pleased with in pre-season. He's not going to be part of the first team squad. He's not quite at that level. He needs to go and play games, needs to go and score goals. If he can do that for Raith Rovers in the Championship, that's a good step for his development. You might get someone who's slightly younger or slightly less developed physically or slightly less aware tactically, who they feel can go into League One or League Two and really benefit from that. So I don't really see the downside here from Rangers. If it works, great. If it doesn't, it's nothing ventured, nothing gained. And we've also seen a number of clubs go down this road now. A number of Premiership clubs have got their respective tie-ins, and ultimately, if it's good for the clubs, it should be good for the Scottish national team. If that then raises the overall profile and money and feel-good factor around about the game, that's then good for everyone. So I don't really see the negative here, but certainly one to keep an eye on, and we'll do our best to keep across these these players over the course of the seasons.
Yeah, there's a reason to subscribe to the website, folks. As Chris rightly said, Joshua had the story yesterday, just at £1 for 6 months. So head over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe to sign up. I did chuckle when it was confirmed on social media. A few people suggesting that Rangers should loan their entire first team to Alloa for this coming weekend, and it might be in with a chance of progressing in the League Cup. Right, moving on from that then, it was press conference day yesterday. If you missed the presser report show when I was on with Joshua last night, then we'll discuss some of the main talking points from Russell Martin and Jack Butland and what they had to say. Interestingly, one of the big takeaways from Russell Martin's press conference was the issue of Nico Raskin, and saying basically that he had his sort of head turned over the course of the summer. I'm going to play you what he had to say.
About him this summer, for sure. Not from people ringing us, but I think from people ringing him, definitely. So I think that's affected his approach in the first, not in terms of professionalism or stuff, but he's a young man. Of course it's going to have an impact at some point. And then we've had a discussion, and since he came out of the team, he's been a different guy, incredible. So he needs to stay there all the time. So what anyone did last season, really, to me, and it's really difficult to say that because you have a feeling for him as a fan because you've watched him play really well for your team. And I've watched a lot of the games last season, but to judge someone on that is really what we're going to ask him to do is so different. But he's a really fantastic player, and he's a young man that I'm getting to know all the time, and who actually I really like his character and personality. And I think I'm really clear with him on the demands of what playing in a position he really wants to play and is going to take. And then it'll be up to him because he will have opportunities like he did on Saturday to play there. And I thought I said to you after the game, he made a big difference for us. He made the most difference.
There you go, Chris. Interesting stuff from Russell Martin yesterday on Nico Raskin. A few comments coming in, and I've seen a few last night as well, suggesting that he's perhaps oversharing here. We don't need to know quite as so much detail with regards to why he wasn't playing. But what's your thoughts on that?
From our point of view, you'll never knock a manager for saying too much. You'd much rather have someone who's chatty and who is enlightening and who's interesting. You'd rather have that than someone who just comes in and gives it straight bat answers and plays an entire press conference with cliches. So no, I'm certainly not against Russell Martin being open and being open and honest and sharing as much as he does or he wants to. Thought they were really interesting comments. Perhaps gives people a bit of insight into just where Nico is at, both in terms of his game and perhaps where he's at in terms of his head as well. I still don't see him being a mainstay in this side. Mentioned a couple of weeks ago that he could be one of the more high profile, I feel like, absentees of this squad. I think if you look at that midfield, if everyone's fit, it's Rodwell, it's Asgard, and it's then Diomande or Raskin. From what we've seen so far, manager really likes Diomande. Tonight is actually a perfect game for Diomande. It's the type of occasion where he usually does really well. He shows up really well. It's the domestic games. It's your Dundees at Ibrox that Diomande sometimes it goes missing in and doesn't perform in. Raskin, as the manager said there, I thought he came on Saturday, made a difference to a side that were dreadful for almost all of it. But he came in and I thought he acquitted himself really well and was really good. I would like to see him back in the team tonight. Whether he's going to be a regular in that number 6 role that he wants, still don't see it. But you see the reaction that he gets when he comes out to warm up. We see the reaction on the show. We see the reaction on social media. The fans really, really like Nico Raskin. He's a guy that they've got a lot of faith in. They've got a lot of love for. So him not being in the team, it's a big call from Russell Martin.
This is where I stand on it. I think Joe Rothwell, has been relatively decent since he's came in, but for me, I'd always have Nico Raskin. I said it on the show a few months ago. I'd be building my team around Nico Raskin. He's Rangers' best player for me. And put it this way, Rangers brought Joe Rothwell in the summer. If Nico Raskin was playing for another side, he would have been out of Rangers' price range. So he's just been called up to the Belgian national team in the last season. he is, well, he was playing really well, certainly the second half of last season as well. I just don't understand this sort of trying to shoehorn him in a position that he feels uncomfortable with. If that's the route that Russell Martin is going down, then yeah, Rangers need to look to sell him because it's not going to work in my mind. But I would like him at the number 6. Move Joe Rothwell up, see how he gets on there. But Raskin over Rothwell all day for me. I know that will spark debate and differing opinions, but yeah, it's for me. I'd be gutted to see him go. From a fan perspective, anyway, I think he's destined for really big things in the game. I just hope that we see him more in the Rangers jersey this season. Moving on from that, then he did say on the injury situation, a number of players that will be available, and he expects them back for the game at the weekend, namely Hamza Igaman, Mikey Moore, whose international clearance finally went through. No coincidence that he just turned 18 yesterday as well. And of course, Tello Asgard, who I'm very much looking forward to seeing and see if he can provide that creative spark in the final third. Won't be available tonight, though, Chris. And yeah, we'll bring up what we think the Rangers team may very well look like here. We both go with the same starting 11, which consists of Buckland in goal, Tavernier, Giga, Suter and Jefte at the back, Rothwell, Raskin. We've got Raskin coming back in, and Tav, incidentally, Diamandi in midfield, Antman, Dessers and Gassama up top. I think that's it, the team that will see this one out tonight.
I hope so. It should be. You can't say it's going to be straightforward, and you can't say it's going to be easy for Rangers, but they've got themselves in a really, really strong position. And it would be a real shock now if they don't go through to that playoff round. They have done most of the hard work. Really impressive at Ibrox. I thought Plzen were fairly poor last week. I didn't think they brought an awful lot to the party at all. They may well be a different side at home. You would imagine they will come out and really go on the front foot and really try and get after Rangers. They need an early goal. Panathinaikos also needed an early goal. In the last round, didn't get it. When they did get their goal, Rangers then responded really well. So I think that will give them. I think that'll give them a bit of hope that even if worse comes to worse and they do fall behind tonight, they've shown that they can react in the right way in these fixtures. But I say you would imagine Rangers should have enough to get the job done, to get through, and it's then keeping one eye on the other tie and see if it's going to be Salzburg or Bruges that we're heading to over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, incidentally, this is the team that we think Russell Martin will select, folks, not the team that we would opt for. Some comments coming in. Steve-O says Cameron in for Dio all day in that lineup. If it was a domestic game, then yeah, Mohamed Diamandi hasn't really shown what he's all about. It seems to be in Europe where he comes into his own, Chris. I think he's a good player to have in your 11 in these European matches. Another issue, of course, is Max Aarons. Don't think he's set the heather alight since coming in. Of course, he was playing out of position to begin with, and then right back. I've seen some suggesting, is he any better than James Tavernier? What do you make of Max Aarons' start? We've both not got him in the starting 11 tonight.
I think he's been average. If that doesn't sound too harsh. I don't think he's come in and made a real impact. Now you have to. Also, there's that mitigating factor of playing left back for most of his time here so far. Even at right back, I remain to be convinced that he's a huge upgrade right now on James Tavernier. And I think Tav, having missed the last couple of games from a starting perspective, I think it's time for him to come back in. You can maybe give Aarons another run out against Alloa at the weekend at right back. I said I don't think there's been enough there to suggest that he is that far ahead of Tavernier that it makes him a non-negotiable that he has to start. I think that right back place is up for grabs right now. So
yep.
Left back, I think Jefte deserves to play in there. Again, Aarons has not been that good on that side. So I think that makes Jefte your ideal starter at left back. And the rest of it, certainly the centre halves pick themselves. The front three picks itself right now. Also with no Antman, no Moore in the squad, no Agaman. available, it's going to be Dessers, it's going to be Ant-Man, it's going to be Gassama as your three, isn't it? So I think that's the three, and I think that's the midfield three that we'll see as well. I see a couple of comments about Lyle Cameron perhaps being unfortunate to miss out. Like you, I think Diomande suits these European games a bit more. I would be surprised if Diomande doesn't play. If Cameron does, it's more likely to be for Raskin. But I just think the way the manager spoke about Raskin yesterday, almost felt as if he was priming him up for a start to come in and almost challenge him to go and put in a big performance on this side. So we may well be, if I can get my words out, we could well be completely wrong. But I think come 5 o'clock or so tonight, I don't think we'll be that far away with that lineup.
Yep. Right, let's discuss one or two more points from Russell Martin's press conference yesterday. I watched it yesterday, Chris, and something that stood out for me, and I went, I sort of cringed when he said it, and I knew it would be picked up by many of the supporter base, was he was discussing the start that Rangers have made, and the question was, there's been complaints from supporters at the weekend about the tempo and the intensity at the start of the game. That's a complaint that's been levelled at numerous teams over the last couple of years. Is that a cultural issue at the club, or is it something that's going to be difficult to get out of the squad? He says, I think it's a really easy fix. After showing the guys, we have a really clear process. We have to learn from everything, whether we win, we draw. The guys are unbeaten in 5 games, and there's a few really tough games in there. So they show the real mentality to not get beaten with 10 men. But there's some real key fundamentals against a team that are sitting a bit lower, a bit deeper in defence, and defend well and in numbers. But we have to do a lot more to disrupt, especially earlier on in the game, because if you score early in them, it changes the context of the game completely. We're doing it differently to the previous manager before that. Everyone comes in with their own ideas. It was the first time we had a chance to come up against that, and we'll be better for it. I'm really calm and convinced that will happen. I've loved the feel of the place since then. We can't get too emotional about the outcome. We'll get emotional about the process and the intention, but not the outcome. And we'll get better. And tomorrow night is a different challenge again, and it's one we're looking forward to. That I would say that's an okay thing to say if you'd won your first 2 league games, not when you dropped 4 points in your opening 2 matches. And no surprise to see the supporters picking up on that, Chris. What do you make of that point that he made? It's factually correct, of course, but just given the mood of the place at the moment, maybe slightly off.
There's one sentence in that answer that stands out like a sore thumb, isn't there? I get what he's trying to say. I think it's a clumsy way of saying it, and I think if he could have that press conference back again, he probably wouldn't say it like that. Yes, there have been a couple of difficult games in there, but the 2 easiest ones that you've had are the ones that you've not won, and the ones that you have been really, really poor in. As you say, if Rangers were sitting with 6 points from 6 and they had managed to go to Fir Park, and even if they'd managed to see that one out 1-0, you could talk your way around it. First day of the season, not being that great, but if they hold on and they win 1-0, people don't really care about the level of performance. When you drop points, people care a lot about the level of performance. And Dundee, there's no talking around that. You can't talk your way out of how bad that was. A game that everyone knew how it would play out. Everyone knew what Dundee would do. And as soon as it started and you saw how Rangers were approaching it, the fear started coming in of, we've seen this movie before. And not just seen it a couple of times. These fans have seen it time after time after time, manager after manager. And that's why they're as upset and why they're as frustrated and angry about it. You can't talk your way out of a performance and a result like that. So, but five games unbeaten, yes, as you say, it's factually accurate. But that type of polishing, it's not going to go down. It's not going to go down with Rangers fans who rightly expect and demand a lot more from this side.
Yeah, it's okay saying that if you're at Swansea or Southampton, where it draws a decent result in the main in the Championship, but it's not at Rangers. It's not been the greatest of. It's not been it's not been a standard start, you could say, given that the teams that Rangers were up against. We expect much better. So you very much hope that what he says, that they will learn from that, because I expect that Saturday will very much be the same. Although I will look at how Dundee got success at the weekend, and I said yesterday I'm looking at the following league matches. Incidentally, he did say that no decision has been made on the St Mirren game, folks. I know there was talk that it might be postponed, given that Rangers, if they do progress tonight, that they have the intention, well, they have the right to ask for that game to be rescheduled. But I think it would be best if Rangers played that game. Personally, would you go along with that, Chris? Although I still expect that Hearts and Celtic to be really tough.
If you'd asked me on Saturday morning, I think my answer would be different than it is now, given the circumstances and where I know the manager said it won't be influenced by the league table, but the league table has to have a big part in it. Rangers can't afford to drop any more points. They can't afford to give Celtic any more encouragement than they've already given them. That's St Mirren game. It's not as if it's a gimme. It's not as if it's a game where Rangers will.
No games are gimme. No games are gimme at the moment.
That's it. That's the problem. You're almost damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you don't play it, you give Celtic a chance to open up more of a gap, and we then know what the narrative is heading into the Old Firm game. If you do play it and you don't win it, well, that's just an even worse case scenario, because you then don't even have the chance of getting the points back later on in the season, and you can't say, well, the gap is whatever it is, but at least we've got a game in hand. So I think they have to make that decision quickly. I think it's only fair to St Mirren that they make that decision quickly. I think Stephen Robinson and his players deserve to know where they're playing next weekend or not. But also the Rangers fans as well, making their own travel plans and knowing what the schedule is going to be. So I think once tonight is taken care of, when the team are back on the flight and they're heading back to Glasgow overnight, they should really make a decision there and then inform everyone at some point tomorrow where that game is going to be played or not.
Yeah, a few comments coming in about the game tonight on being on TV. Bobby and many others saying, where can we watch the game? Well, it is on Rangers TV. It's also on the random Swedish TV station Solid Sport, which you can watch for at a fee. I think it's about 12 quid. You can watch the match, which is a bit of a strange one. You would have expected Premier Sports or BBC, as they have done with the previous fixtures, to step forward and say they're showing the game. But it will be on Solid Sports. Be interesting to see who the commentators, the pundits are on that one, Chris.
Like you, I thought the BBC would have picked it up earlier, but it's not Rangers' game to sell. It's Plzen's game to sell. I think Solid Sport had, was it Dundee United that they had last week, or was it the Hibs game that they had? They definitely had one of the other ones. So if people can't watch it, they know where to tune in for the pre-match team news. Obviously, you and Josh will be on as soon as the teams drop. Josh will have his analysis on the website, and then I think we're back on post-match as well. So if you can't watch it, there are plenty of Rangers review themed avenues for you to keep fully up to speed if you're not able to tune in on Rangers TV.
Yeah, superb stuff. And I love this. Gary gets in touch. He says, morning, guys. Watching the briefing at 36,000 feet halfway across the Atlantic. We'll hopefully make the Big Apple Bears for tonight's match. That'll be some atmosphere if you can head along to that, Gary. But good to have you tuning in from far afield, shall we say. What are you expecting tonight, Chris? Rangers going to finish the job off? I'm just glad they have a 3-0 lead, put it that way. Surely that's enough.
It certainly should be. I had a laugh and a joke with Josh last week about him having a fairly easy time of it and a fairly straightforward trip. He had a direct flight out. The press conference was at a good time yesterday. Rangers have got a 3-0 lead. Czech Republic's a nice place to be for a few days, so I think he's enjoying himself out there, and quite rightly so. Hopefully, it's a fairly stress-free night for him out there as well. You'd like to think Rangers should be able to get the job done. Whether they win the game or not, who knows? I don't see them losing the game. So I wasn't that impressed with Plzen last week. So I think Rangers should have enough to at least get a draw, and of course that takes them through really comfortably in the tie.
Yeah, £2 a pint. I've been told it is over there for the good old Pilsners. So I'm sure there'll be a few being drank by the Rangers fans who are heading over. Just a small contingent. It's a small stadium, just under 12,000 it holds. So I'm sure they'll be making themselves heard tonight. The game kicks off at 6 p.m. UK time. So yeah, we'll have all the usual coverage, as Chris says. Folks will be on when the teams are out, and we'll also be on the whistle as well to give a reaction to the game. Right, enjoy your Tuesday up until then, and yeah, we'll speak to you again soon. Bye for now.